there's much more beyond the 3 screens that we are transitioning. For example, there was this e-readers, okay, which Microsoft incidentally had done it years ago, but somehow along the research channel it fell into some crack and poor thing died a miserable death. But then there's been successful products which has come beyond that, which is nothing but a kind of interacting with your IT systems. There's this cool company which came up with a device which you hang it around the neck of your dog, and every time it barks, right, you get a tweet. So imagine a dog barking and you get a tweet. So you can have your dog and you can follow it. So when you're in office and you miss your dog, you can actually see a tweet coming that your dog tweeted. It's a choice. You can follow your neighbor's dog also if it's cute. Well, it's kind of crazy. I mean, we'll talk about the stupid, I don't know, it's not stupid, it's there. Somebody's buying it, so I can't really call it stupid, but it's there, okay? I don't understand it because I'm old. Now, Microsoft has tied up with Ford to make this new software, which runs on the dashboard. And you see there's plans at the end. It actually grows if you drive your car correctly. But if you speed too much, change your gears badly, those leaves start dying. So did you realize that your car has become an interface? You driving has started interacting with the system. Car driving has become a game. You have a scale, which is Wi-Fi enabled, and now every time you stand on it, it will actually update your status on Facebook with your weight. Wow, that's going to be a pleasure. Every time you you stand on your Facebook, you're going to find your friends telling, you still haven't lost weight, good for you. Yesterday you had good dinner. So your weighing scale has become a new device by which you talk. It's not a keyboard, it's not a mouse. And this is an exaggeration. Maybe you won't have so much of sensors all over you to talk to the computer or the IT systems, but it's just that anything that you do, anything that you touch and feel is a potential for becoming an interface, and that's not very far away, okay? You touch a laptop, you touch a handle, you open the handle of your house, it knows who you are. No more fingerprint scanning. You touch your handle and then open it. Either it will open if you're you, it won't open if you're not there. It's not very far away. That is when you interact with the system. The system starts knowing you. So there's this robo, right, from Asimov. Now, it can actually find out, oops, a human is coming, let me get out of the way. Okay, it can actually interact with humans. The human is not interacting with the computer anymore. The IT systems are interacting with the humans and changing their responses accordingly. That's really something that has to be thought about. You have your 5 seconds. Thing about having so much of convergence that's happening is you have a challenge of you need so much of processing power, which leads us to you need to have good data centers. When you say good data centers, that means there's so much of data that's flowing across all over the place. Now, take the simple example. When I started my IT, I used to buy this quirky modem which used to make this huge amount of sound, and maximum you would get is 4.5 kbps. If it became 7 kbps, you are a success. And if you could actually finish your entire email without the connection getting dropped, you were lucky. I mean, I was in that age. Very few people, I guess, would be there. I'm sure Venkat would have been there. And now you look at this case where I have this home router for 1,500 rupees. I have my media center connected to this. I have my laptop. I have my kid's laptop. I have my wife's laptop. All connected through Wi-Fi. 3 of the slots are still free. Okay? So much of bandwidth is actually going through that. Prices of bandwidth is coming down and down and down. That means that, you know what? Wow, cool. I have all the bandwidth in the world that I have to use, and all my problems are going to get solved. No, not exactly. What's going to happen is so much of bandwidth which is getting generated today is actually getting concentrated on the data centers. Do the data centers have the capability to handle so much? Not exactly. I have had instances in which, forget a terabyte Ethernet. When I did some of the SharePoint configurations, forgetting to switch on a my Mbps, Gbps Ethernet switch on the card pulled down my farm. Forgetting to do that setting on the Ethernet card. You need a Ethernet which is faster. You need data centers which can handle so much of data flowing across them. The switches have to become really powerful. It's driving the switches industry also. All the data that we are talking about, were supposed to be in containers. Now people don't find it, it seems it's not economical anymore, okay, to have movable containers. So they are rather looking at data centers where you could have these big containers stacked in a big warehouse, one after another, connected to each other. The challenge with having such kind of a data center is, of course, that yes, it's easier to operate, but the problem of heating still remains that one center generates so much of heat and it needs to be cooled. And the important point is you shouldn't affect your neighborhood surroundings also. It doesn't look like how much of heat can a single data center generate. I guess if you really want to understand that, why don't you just go and sit next to a server for some period of time. You will know what the heat it can generate. That leads us to what's the kind of hardware that's needed to run these data centers. If you look at it, these are some of these guys. You won't find any of the standard data centers. No more are you going to order something like 2 CPU machine with 8 GB RAM. No, you would actually order some kind of, I would like to have 2 containers or 3 containers for a data center. People who are actually using this, getting this practically, one of the guys that's happening is Akamai. They have data centers all over the world. Most of the video that hits you today comes from their database, from their data centers, sorry. So that's able to take away the bandwidth that's going to hit your data center. So you're kind of distributing the load. Obviously, what this means is anytime everybody connects to a data center, you need to have IP addresses. The fact is this need for IP addresses has improved so much. Every time all the mobile phones here does an email sync, they need a GPRS. They need an IP address. And that way, the need for IP address has increased so much that we are kind of really running out of IP addresses that's available. After all, IPv4 is a 32-bit address, and 32-bit address is a finite number. It's not infinite. Okay, so what? Big deal. I know we have got IPv6. That's going to solve my problem. Well, is it? 2 challenges. One, IPv6 is a variable size packet. Okay, so the performance needed to switch an IPv6 packet is much more higher than an IPv4 because the switches have to figure out what's the length and it has its own performance handback, fallback or shortfalls. Now, okay, why don't you go home and try to change your home router with IPv6? This is what you will get. The applications aren't designed for IPv6. Practically there's some 2 or 5% of devices today who are capable of understanding and using IPv6. The problem is, in the next 2 to 3 years, we have a chance of running out of IP addresses. We think internet is there for us. It's our right. If we pay, we are going to get it. Not anymore. One small investment tip here. Instead of buying a real estate, buy some 100 IP addresses and hold it. Most probably after 10 years, you'll be able to sell it for a good premium, just like your .com stuff. This also means that since I've got data centers which is going to have this huge amount of processing power, that also means obviously there's going to be a lot of data that is flowing across. And these data are not generally data, right? They are a result of some kind of service or some applications people are trying to use. The biggest application today on the net happens to be search. People search for all sorts of weird things, okay? Whether you like it or not, they will search it. And what they get might be meaningful or not. But then the fact is people are used to searching. And in order to search, you need to have all the data for searching, which can be given to the people as it happens. The other kind of data that is really huge is your videos. YouTube, in a quarter, seems to be generating enough information or enough videos that TV channels have not been able to do in 20 years. Limited set, okay? So, but are the videos really useful? Let's not